Hello once again, Captain Cathode here, making a video response to another one of Lord Strange's videos. Not very surprising there, I'm afraid. Um, this time, Lord Strange was talking to about his idea of re-specifying halflings and turning them into a sort of medieval version of James Bond, which sounds pretty exciting to me because I'm English and I like James Bond. And in the thread, there was some comments, and somebody said it was actually NTL Backbus was asking, how do I take that character and put it in a traditional gaming party? And I had some ideas, and I thought I would make a video and then share them with you. Um, so, Mr. NTL Backbus, if that is your real name, here are my thoughts. I was thinking about the families that the halfling butlers work for. These families have got to have a relatively large amount of money, or power, or influence to be able to afford a halfling butler. In fact, I think that the people who can afford halfling butlers have got to be sort of aristocrat level rich. Maybe a trade baron, but probably a mayor, or a count, or an earl, somebody who's holding land. And the families that are holding land, their main concerns are maintaining the amount of money and influence and power that they have. Because there is only so much money to go around, and everybody wants a bigger slice of the pie. Every nobleman is watching every other nobleman for the first sign of weakness so that I can get more money or influence or power than you. If you have one generation that does not understand this, you will lose all that money, and then you won't be able to feed your family, you won't be able to maintain your house, and you will begin a downward spiral that leads to you not being a noble anymore. So, yes, being a noble is good. You get better food, you get better accommodation, but you have to do a lot of work to make sure that you stay at the current level of influence. So, as an example of what might lead to a traditional uh, party, how about this? The family that the halfling works for get a letter and they say, "Dear sir, it came to my attention recently that your son got slightly too drunk at the local bar and then he ran into a wall and then I ended up with his signet ring. And for a small fee, I will make sure that that signet ring doesn't end up in the bedroom of the 7-year-old daughter of the commander of the king's army, who we all know worships the goddess of purity and would have an awful lot of questions about how that signet ring ended up in her bedroom. This fee can be paid monthly." And now you have a situation for a high fantasy where you've got an intrigue that spawns an answer, which is, who's got this ring? Well, it's going to be some other nobleman. How do I get it back? Because my family really need it back. And how do I go about getting it? Well, if this is another nobleman, I might be able to get a group of people together and tell them about how terrible this other nobleman is and how he's abusing all his peasants. By the way, my family abuses his peasants as well, but we'll keep that quiet. And convince them that, hey, that this guy's been involved in all kinds of shady deals. My family has as well, but we'll keep quiet about that. Why don't you go and investigate his house, which just happens to have a dungeon underneath it, because we all know that his great-great-grandfather had that phase of worshipping the blood god that we don't talk about anymore, but everybody knows that his grandfather used to worship the blood god. And now you have a sort of plot hook that would lead to a dungeon crawl style adventure. You put together the team, and during the course of knocking over this guy's house, somehow that signet ring, which isn't that big and not that impressive, ends up in the pocket of the halfling servant, and his job was done. And incidentally, he knocked out one of his family's rivals for power. How cool is that? You did two things. And that kind of plot hook would work very well for a high fantasy game. My original concept was, what if I was a halfling servant, I was working for the Starks from the Game of Thrones? Then I thought, why would I want to work for the Starks? I want to work for the Lannisters. Those guys are bastards. And that's the idea of a secret agent character, is a character that is prepared to go beyond the call of duty for a rich and powerful person who has rich and powerful enemies. Then I had a different idea. I thought, who else is rich and powerful? So instead of working for the Starks or the Lannisters, what if I was working for... What if I was working for Tony Soprano? That'd be cool. In fact, that's an idea that I had a little while ago. I can't say that I thought of it straight away, because I'd already thought of it. I was playing a game with a friend of mine who had his own home-brewed version of D&D that he wanted to test out. And the world was slightly more grim and dark than your traditional let's all hug flowers and pretend that we're nice to elves kind of version, where the halflings didn't have a homeland. The humans had a homeland, and then a different group of humans had a homeland, and the elves had a homeland, and there were orcs off to the west who were forming an army. But the halflings didn't have any land. And in fact, most of their money came from farming, because the nobles worked out that the halflings could do the same amount of work as a human for a lot less food. So basically, halflings were the illegal immigrants of that world. They were coming over here and taking your job. And apart from being farmers, they were also traders and sailors. In fact, they were pretty good sailors and they were pretty good traders. So they were also illicit traders. The halfling family that I decided to work for were basically the mafia. And I didn't make no bones about it. And walking around, for me personally, my character walking around the city that he was in with a stiletto in one pocket, and in my head going through every scene in an Italian-American movie where Joe Pesci goes completely insane, was a lot of fun. And I'd like to spend this moment just to apologise to the other players in that game and say, yes, I probably shouldn't have stabbed that guy. But my boss said I had to do it. So I had to do it. Because my boss said so. I'm sorry, I didn't know that he was the son of the mayor. Oh, I'm sure that the world will survive. So, yes, there is probably a way that you can work out to take that halfling character, Butler, and put him into a dungeon crawl style traditional party. It might be difficult, but you have to kind of work out a compromise with your players. Normally, as a GM, I try to tell them, look, it's going to be this kind of story. It's going to be an intrigue. You will have to go to court, and you will have to be diplomatic. If you play a barbarian, you're going to look stupid and have no fun. Or, I might say, look, I'm going to blow out the cobwebs, it's time to go old school, bash the door down, kill the monster, slay the dragon, save the world. And you will get absolutely no play out of a character that has no non-combat skills. It's just not going to work. You're going to die. So, between you and the players, there's always a way to work out a good way to get a good character into a good story. There's always a way to say yes. As for Halfling James Bond, I'll take mine shaken and not stirred.